ਭਗਵਤੀ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ 10ਵੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਸਿਮਰ ਕੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਲਈ ਧਿਆਏ ਅੰਗਦ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਰਾਮਦਾਸੇ ਹੋਈ ਸਹਾਇ ਅਰਜਨ ਹਰ ਗੋਬਿੰਦਨੋ ਸਿਮਰੋ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਰਾਏ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਧਿਆਈਐ ਜਿਸ ਡਿਠੇ ਸਭ ਦੁਖ ਜਾਏ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿਮਰਿਐ ਕਰ ਨੌ ਨਿਤਾਵੈ ਤਾਏ 10ਵੇਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਪੰਥ ਦੇ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਭ ਥਾਈ ਹੋ ਜੀ ਸਹਾਇ ਦਸਾਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜੋਤ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਇਹ ਨਿਮਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਣ ਨਿਤਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਤਾਣ ਨਿਉਟਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਓਟ ਨੇ ਆਸਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਆਸਰੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਕਰਨ ਪਿਤਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਬਦਰੀ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਹੈ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਰ ਦਇਆ ਦਾ ਸਦਕਾ ਸਾਈਬਰ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੁੜੀ ਹੈ ਦਤਾਰ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਸਿਰ ਤੇ ਮਿਹਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਆਪ ਕਰਵਾਉਣੀ ਅੱਖਰ ਵਾਧਾ ਘਾਟਾ ਭੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨੀ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਜ ਰਾਸ ਕਰਨੇ ਸਹੀ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਮਿਲਣੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤਾਵੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਪਾਣੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਕਲਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ
ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ this is Ravinder Singh connecting with all of you from Columbus, Ohio, and for those of you who've joined for the first time in the new year, a happy new year and welcome. Harvinder, before we move on, before we begin, what I'd like to do is make sure I know who's online. So I have Gurjeet Singh ji from Australia, Eileen. I have Dilpreet Singh from Columbus. I have Gurdeep Singh ji from Amritsar and Ekon Kaur Khalsa ji from New Mexico. Have I covered everyone?
Hanji.
ठीक है जी. अच्छा जी. Anji, would you mind going on mute while we are, if you're not speaking? That we just sort of. Today, what we are going to do is focus our attention on the 23rd Pauri of the Japji. But before we do that, I would like to sort of set the context here. It seems to me, at least in my mind, that we've been more or less following a particular theme since the 21st Pauri. And the theme being the place of our place in the universe and how insignificant it is, and how any accounting that we can take or try to take of the universe is really fruitless. And I think the essence, it seems to me so far, has been that it is beyond human ken to be able to measure or at least account for the universe. And it seems to me that Babaji is suggesting a whole different way of looking at the universe, and perhaps we should talk a little bit about that. Because I think the subsequent Pauri also talks about the infinite expanse of the universe. I'm getting a lot of disturbance in the background. Would you mind putting yourself on mute, please? ਹਾਂਜੀ ਹਰਵਿੰਦਰ ਮਿਊਟ ਤੇ ਥੋੜਾ ਮਿਊਟ ਤੇ ਕਰ ਦੇਗਾ I think ਆਸਟ੍ਰੇਲੀਆ ਤੋਂ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ
ਹਾਂਜੀ I think now everyone is almost mute.
Okay, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜੀ. So with that said, let's start our discussion. And as always, I would like to reach out to somebody to recite the 23rd Pauri before we get started. Would somebody want to volunteer, or should I call out on someone?
Hanji, I can read it.
Hanji, Dilpreet Singh ji, please.
ਸਾਲਾਹੀ ਸਾਲਾਹ ਏਤੀ ਸੁਰਤ ਨਾ ਪਾਈਆ ਨਦੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਵਾਹ ਪਵੈ ਸਮੁੰਦ ਨਾ ਜਾਣੀਐ ਸਮੁੰਦ ਸਾਹ ਸੁਲਤਾਨ ਗਿਰਹਾ ਸੇਤੀ ਮਾਲ ਧਨ ਕੀੜੀ ਤੁਲ ਨਾ ਹੋਵਨੀ ਜੇ ਤਿਸ ਮਨੋ ਨਾ ਵਿਸਰੈ.
Thank you, Ji. Let me start with Gurdeep Singh Ji in Amritsar. Ji, would you want to touch on this, on the theme of this Pauri, and related to the previous ones as well as the subsequent ones? Am I right in suggesting that there is a theme, a common theme running through these?
Vijay, I think I will speak in between. Please, I will request.
Acha ji. ठीक है जी. Okay, let me reach out to Ekunkar ji. I know she's on. Ekunkar ji, would you be good enough to set the ball rolling? And as I said earlier, to my suggestion, is there any validity to what I'm suggesting, that there is a common theme running through here, and what that might be, and what sort of a stance is Guruji asking us to take, other than the one that we are inclined to do, which is to measure everything and to try and assess everything?
Sure, I'm happy to say a few things to help get the ball rolling.
Sure.
You know, the 23rd Pauri is actually the hardest Pauri for me, so I was looking forward to hearing other people's perspectives about it. But you know, for me, it starts off with this idea that, you know, people are praising. People can get into a state of praise, and yet that spiritual understanding can't be obtained just by what we do on our own. And I think the next line is so beautiful. You know, the way I've translated it: streams and rivers flow along, not knowing they are merging into the ocean. Like, we go through our experience, and we're just having our experience, and we're heading towards that merger, but we're not really aware of it until that grace comes in and gives us the awareness. And I think that relates to the 22nd Pauri, like what you're saying, where Guru Nanak is saying there's so much. The creative experience is so vast. You can keep exploring all the worlds that exist, and you're going to just get tired, because the source isn't in the manifestation, but experience of creation takes us back to the source. And then this next line, I don't really understand it, to be honest with you.
Is it, which one is this? The third one? Samund Sah Sultan. Girhaseti Maldan. Okay, we'll set it aside for now, but do you want to say anything more?
And then I think that last line is so beautiful about, you know, not even an ant gets left behind if he just doesn't forget. So it's this kind of, it's a very interesting Pauri, because it's totally contradictory. Because it starts off with people praising, but hey, you're not going to get intuitive understanding, yet even if you're the smallest creature, if you don't forget the one, you're not going to get left behind. So to me, it's kind of a contradiction, and that's all really I can share about it.
So I know, thanks a lot. But to your mind, what does praising here mean? Does that mean reading accolades or singing paeans? What is really praising, or is it living a certain lifestyle?
I mean, I think it's about. I think that Guru Nanak is really setting up, when you look at the language, the difference between Salahi and Surat. And Salahi is, we can all get into that space of flattery and acknowledgement and look at how beautiful you are and how wonderful you are, and yet Surat is a different consciousness. Surat is that you're listening to your higher consciousness, you have intuitive insight, and it's kind of a way of saying, like, that you know, just by talking about it, and this comes up in other Pauris, just by talking about it isn't going to get you there. There's a higher consciousness that has to get activated if you want to really see the one and understand your relationship to the one. So that's what I think that difference is, although I'm curious to hear other people's. I think he's setting up that there's other shabds where Salahi is used in such a positive way. So it's interesting that he does that here, of saying, yeah, you can get into the verbal expression of how, you know, wonderful God is, like the flattery of the king and the court, but Surat is not going to come just from that, and that what we're looking for is that experience of Surat.
Thanks. I'm just wondering if Salahi means more than just a verbal expression, but I'll reach out to Dilpreet Singh and see if he can lend some insight into what we've just discussed. Dilpreet Singh ji, what's your thought about Salahi Surat? Dilpreet, you there?
Hanji, I'm there.
Hanji.
So your question was on Salahi and...
No, I was just trying to push this discussion a little. You know, Ekunkarji
Right.
has talked about praising and saying that, you know, simple verbal expressions of praise are not really going to get you there, quote unquote, and that really what you're looking for is some higher consciousness. In other words, you have to traverse your consciousness. That's the passage. So I was just trying to get a sense of, and then she, I think, mentioned that the third line, Samund Sah Sultan, Girha Seti Maltan, is something that eludes her, as it does a lot of us. So perhaps you may want to sort of take off from there.
Okay. So as you said right earlier, starting, that this is the continuation of the thoughts in the previous bodies, where Guruji is saying, Patala Patal Lakh Gasa Gas Odak Odak Pal Thakka Ved Kahanik Vaat. And then again he says, Sahas 18 Kahan Kateba Sulikta. Then the important line, Lekha Hoita Likhiye, Lekhe Hoy Vinas. Then Nanak Vada Akhi Ape Jane Aap, that we cannot find the end of it. Now here also, in continuation of that, Salahi Salahe, it means those are the two words, as if we go by the meanings of Professor Sahib saying. Then Salahi, he is saying that as a respect to the Vaheguru, and Salahi, that he is saying that if we praise him or if we try to find him, and if we want to figure out that how big he is or what is the dimensions or what is the end of it, if we try to do that, then he is saying iti surtana paye, means that you will get lost into that and you will get immersed into it. So what the message here is, then there is an example here that nadiyan te waha pave samund sahana janiye, that it is similar to the rivers who once emerge into the oceans and they lose their own identity, they become part of that. So he's saying that if you, once we try to explore him, and if we are on the right path, so we will be part of him.
Okay, thank you. So I think what you're suggesting, Dilpreet, is that that through Salahi Salaha, there is a possibility or perhaps inevitability that the individual consciousness will absorb or merge or blend, whatever you want to call it, into this larger consciousness and perhaps not even know about it. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, on same lines. Yes.
Theek hai ji. Thank you. That's indeed a thought worth pursuing. Let me call on Gurjeet Singh ji to sort of give us his perspective on what has been said so far. Virji?
Hanji Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. This is in continuation to the last Pauri. I've written a bit of a blog on it too. Nanak Vada Akhi Ape Jane Aap. Until the man knows its mool, it can't salah. There is no way a man can salah Vaheguru. Man tu jot saroop hai apna mool pachan. If you want to recognize your mood, which is not Vaheguru, which is your own positive conscious, you have to do it through Salahi. When you praise someone, you lose your home. The man has a home in it. The mool has a man in it. These are actually two words. So, to lose its man, that's the first step in Gurmat. The man has to start praising its mool. And mool,
So can I just stop you for a second, Virji?
Supreme conscious.
Can I just stop you for a second? I'm just trying to get some clarity. So you're saying that one has to start praising one's mood as a first step.
Yes.
So what does that imply? Yes. What does praising one's mood imply? How does it look like to me? Am I saying, is it a verbal expression, as Ekunkar Kaurji said earlier, or is it something else?
I can give you an example from Gurbani. Tu samarth vada, meri mat thodi ram. this is the way you have to salah. Ram is my mool. The man says, "Tu samrath vadda, tu samrath hai, vadda hai. Meri tamat choti hai. I don't have much wisdom in me. Whatever I had, I've lost it in my Maya." So this
But
is the
that's
way. These are the
but
ways.
that is a realization that dawns on an individual. It is not necessarily something that has to be uttered verbally. I mean, "Tu samrath vada, meri mat thodi ram," I would think is something that a person has to realize inside of himself, wouldn't you think?
No, but this is to be realized through someone who has already realized it.
No, but then let's come back to salahi, praise. I'm just trying to resolve that a little bit. So it does not involve, let's say, reading a text. Does it involve saying, "Oh God, you're great"? I mean, that is praising him.
It involves Bani Brahmao as a whole. We are following the context from Bani Brahmao. The Bani Brahmao, understanding of Bani Brahmao will, the more you understand, the more you will praise you more. Because that's your source of existence. You're existing because of your move. So this is the way you have to salah. It is through Gurbani.
ठीक है जी. Thank you very much. Gurdeep Singh Veer ji, Amritsar, waiting for your input. Hanji.
To your question, Virji, I would say that
It's not my question. I'm just trying to throw things out there.
Yeah. I mean, but the question raised by you that regarding praising and see, that's the start of the mechanical process. If you call it a mechanical, because ultimately it has to come to the emotional level. But the mechanisms, this process starts only with the tongue. I mean, the praising by tongue is also recommended in Gurbani. And now I am not remembering the exact verse, but I will quote it in a short while. That the Guru Sahib has definitely laid stress on praising with the tongue. And so all parts of the body, they have to sing praises. Our hands, our emotions, even roam. I mean, that only then that we have come to the emotional level of feelings. I mean, that feelings have to make the realization comes through feelings. When we fall in love. So that Salahana definitely here means the
So are you? So I get the sense what you're suggesting is that Salahana is not just a particular activity; it is perhaps a spectrum that includes. It's a continuum, perhaps that might be the better word. That starts with the tongue and leads into the depths of your inner depths, and that this is a progression.
Yes.
So ठीक है जी. Hanji, carry on.
And regarding this, the whole body, I have got. I agree with what Gurpreet Veer has said. I mean, he has beautifully explained the whole body, but I have got my own doubts about some words. I will ask that Smund Saha Sultan Graha Seti Maltan Kidi Tul na Hovni Je Tis Mano na Visre. Here Je Tis Mano Visre, na Visre, why this na has come? Normally we say when these larger things like ocean and even very big mountains, if they forget, if they forget, that's the actual translation. But if they don't forget, I could not follow this na word here.
Okay, I think the third and perhaps the fourth line is a subject of some discussion, and we'll get to that because not only you but Ekonkarji has also raised it, and I suppose some others have alluded to it. But before we go there, I haven't called out Eileen yet. Eileen, would you want to add something to the discussion so far?
Yes, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I see the theme running through the Pauris as very, very meaningful for me, because I think it addresses one of my challenges, and I think it's talking about knowledge and the type of knowledge that people tend to pursue versus faith. And I think it's drawing the distinction between knowledge and faith. So, for example, in the first line, I think it's actually very significant that Guru Nanak describes, praise without having an awareness, right? So praise without the awareness. I think that goes very, very well with the next line about the streams and rivers that pursue a path that's not known, that they don't know is going to lead to the river. And so I think that it's really strikingly similar to the message of the last Pauri, talking about not putting a focus on the number of worlds and the various proof of the universe, but focus on the faith. And it reminds me of this. It reminds me of when I was telling my kids various times, like pursuing a sport or something, right? Because they would get frustrated at first with their practice, right? They don't know that they will eventually become good at it. They have no vision of this long-term practice, what it will do for them. And so they'll go for a few rounds of some practices. They'll run some laps or something for the sport, and they won't realize that eventually, after practicing and practicing, they'll actually become really good. Like, they can't see that ahead because they haven't experienced it. So I think that this is like what Guru Nanak's message is here, is that there's a practice and an activity of praise, and there's a different way to pursue this end, where you don't know what's going to happen down. You can't say, well, yes, I've been to Sakyara in the past and I'll be there again. You're on this road that you're pursuing, and it's following with faith instead of with reinforcement from proof. So that's what I take away.
I appreciate that insight, Eileen. I think it's very meaningful, at least to me, because I think what you're saying here is that praise without awareness really struck me. And I think what you're suggesting here is that Guru Nanak is cautioning us against trying to get caught up in logical, discursive type of thought processes, but in fact to pursue this whole effort in a spirit of, you call it faith, and I think what you're saying is we are living in an unknown, with an unknown universe, and that we'll never really know the end. But that's perhaps the way to go, sort of hoping. I suppose what you're saying is that to have faith that it'll lead you somewhere where you don't know.
Right. So if you don't know, if you don't get this awareness, sort of like a transaction, right? So if you praise and then something happens, right? Let's say you praise and you don't see a transactional benefit. You have to just know that you continue to praise and you continue to have this faith, just like the river that doesn't see the ocean, right? You continue on that path without waiting for the transactional sort of confirmation or the proofs, in the numbers. That's what I was trying to say.
Thank you. I like the term that you use, transactional, that you may not see an immediate return. It's not an equation. Thanks. We'll come back to this some more. Let me reach out. I think I saw Mr. Rana on the line.
Hanji, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Hanji Veerji, you've heard the discussion, so you know what's going on, so let me not sort of repeat myself.
Yes, I did hear that. One thing, my observation here is just listening to Ali and other people. One thing is, we can take Gurbani and put so many lenses there and bring our own experiences and try to interpret what Gurbani is saying. Because that way, sometimes we basically, I would say that, disturb the focus on the lines, and we bring it a lot of other things. For example, in these two lines, in my view anyways, it's very clear what Guru Sahib is saying. And your question, will come back to your question, what does Salahi mean? Okay, why we have to do that? And I think you mentioned very nicely it is a continuum, and yes, I agree with that. But these lines are very simply saying that we can praise a Kalpurak, okay, and people are doing it, but they don't have any sense of the vastness of the supremeness of a Kalpurak, which Guru Sahib is saying the previous 4 lines in the previous body. They said we are doing the same thing, just like rivers and small nalas, what do you call it? They don't have awareness of the ocean, but they are just attracted towards that. They are just keep on doing that without understanding how deep, how vast, how expanded that ocean is. The same way over here, Guru Sahib is simply saying that people are keep on doing that, but even people who are doing that, they don't have any understanding, any comprehension of how supreme that Akal Purakh is. That is my understanding. Your question was, praising is a verbal praise or it is something internal? Yes, it has to be internal, but you cannot internalize it unless you do first verbally this thing. And Guru Nanak Sahib was going around with Mardana, and he was singing all the time. Why he was singing? Because there was verbalization of praises, and yes, you can internalize later on. So my point would be that yes, it's a continuum. It starts with the verbalization of that praises, and then you internalize it. So that's my understanding.
Thank you, Ji. So what you've suggested is that the second line really provides an example to the first. So they go hand in hand. And you've talked about a continuum, as has Eileen. So you're talking about internalization. And Gurdeep Singh Veerji mentioned that, called it a mechanical process. So I'm just trying to put it all together here. Eileen referred to a practice, telling her kids, that they need to practice if it's a sport. And I've often used that example. I mean, when you want to play tennis, for instance, or squash, which I play, and you have to learn how to stroke the ball, initially it is all mechanical, because you have to get you have to have your feet in the right position, your wrist and your elbow, and so on. But then this actually gets embedded in muscle memory. It gets internalized. And I think what we are suggesting here, if I'm not mistaken, is that this is a similar process. You begin with something that is mechanical, and gradually it builds into your awareness at the emotional level, and leads into a deeper consciousness, so that your whole being is then involved in a posture, I would say, of praise. It's a posture of being in praise. And yes, you're in the midst of an unknown entity. You can never know what the end is. It's an unknown God, in a manner of speaking, but it'll lead somewhere. Does anybody want to add to this round of discussion before we move on to the second round?
I would like to add something.
Hanji Dilpreet Singh ji, please.
Right. See, I was thinking on this line and listening to this. What is coming to my mind is that an example that if we try to explore something, then we start adopting what we are exploring and learning on the path. And then Guru Nanak also says that it is a path of love. And now if we are in love with someone, we try to behave and copy that person. We try to, if we are in really love with someone, we want to become one of that person. We want to copy what they are doing and become like them. Again, the example is that if some kids like Michael Jordan here or somebody, then they try to represent him. They will buy his t-shirt, shoes, or there are other ways where they will try to show that, okay, I want to be like him. Now, Guru Nanak is representing God by his guns and qualities. And slowly, once we start exploring, understanding, and adopting those guns and qualities, so we will start becoming like him. That it reminds me of a ghazal which Jagjit Singh used to sing. He's saying, "मेरे जैसे बन जाओगे जब इश्क तुम्हें हो जाएगा." So this is where the example of river and ocean comes, that we will lose our identity, and we will try to represent him, and we will try to play our role in the bigger whole. Thank you ji.
Hanji, thank you indeed, Dilpreet Singh ji. Jo ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ, it's indeed very insightful. I think I would suggest that adopting the qualities, because our notion of Vaheguru is that of qualities, as we will all agree. Adopting qualities, I think, based on what Dilpreet Singh is suggesting, is indeed what Salahi Salah means. That really is what it leads you to. You may begin mechanically, but as you explore, as he said, and adopt them, that is the path of love, because you want to then become like the beloved. Hanji, anybody else?
Hanji, can I add something?
Hanji, please.
Oh, sure. The example of river is a fantastic example, because river is like our buddhi sitting in the Trikuti. The river only knows one thing, that if I take my next step, which is lower than the first one, I will merge into ocean one day. She doesn't know the time, she doesn't know the direction, but one thing is sure: if my next step is the lower than the first one, I will ultimately, because ocean is on the lowest place on the earth. So it's basically, Nadi is like your wisdom. If it's taking a next step lower than the first one, it will ultimately lower itself and come into the Hirda. That's where the whole process is taking place. The wisdom has to leave the Maya, ultimately start praising her sentient husband, and basically come into the Hirda. And that's the only way to praise, is that you have to lower yourself. This is the basic definition of Salah, inshallah. Understand Gurbani, understand your mood, and understand your man. You will find Ham avgun pare ek gun nahi. My man has got no virtues. If it understands and accepts it, it has started Salahing. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ji. One last call. Anybody else want to add to this?
Yes. I just want some clarification, because I get quite mixed up on one concept, as you just mentioned.
Join the club.
Hanji?
Join the mixed up club.
Yes, of course. And that's what we're trying to sort out anyways.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
You mentioned God is basically a cluster of good qualities or gun. But when we talk about this one, guns are all social constructs. We made those guns. And those guns are instruments by which we praise God. We have created those guns because that's the process of we praise it. God doesn't mean it. I don't know whether God has those guns. We are saying God is merciful. God may be a lot better than what we can comprehend. So my question is, Salah itself is basically the whole purpose of that is that when we praise somebody, that we create humility in ourselves. And that's the whole purpose of that. But when we talk about guns, I get mixed up on that one. You see, guns, these are all social constructs. Guru Sahib ne they're uncountable things. The traits and all that, and we cannot basically list those things. So my concern is when we say God is a cluster of good qualities, and I just sit back and think, so that means knowledge.
Hanji, I think what I said was that we tend to look. I didn't say that he was perhaps just those qualities. I think that we have to use our current apparatus to even comprehend what little we can, right? And obviously we can't comprehend the whole thing. What I was suggesting, and I will let somebody else answer this question. I agree with you that these are all social constructs, or that these are constructs that are man-made. The fact of the matter is that that's all we have. The other thing is that is the way Guru Sahib has described in the Mool Mantra. And what I was suggesting was that we collectively tend to look at the Mool Mantra as being representative of this force. Let's not call it God. Let's call it a force that is unseen. That this force tends to have these characteristics. I'm being very careful in the way I use my words, because I know where you're coming from. But I will open this particular point up to the forum. Does somebody want to take this up?
Yes, yes.
हाँ जी, गुरदीप सिंह
Can I
भेजिए.
take?
तुसी
हाँ जी.
काफी आतुर
Yeah.
लगदे हो. I think you have an answer for us.
Sir, the thing is that when we start describing a person, we will start describing his characteristics first. The characteristics are not the person. But when we introduce to somebody, we will say he is a qualified engineer, he speaks very softly, he is very social. So like this, we try to introduce a person. We speak of the characteristics. And Guru Sahib in Mool Mantar have given the characteristics, started enunciating the characteristics only. That doesn't mean that all the characteristics is the person itself, or characteristics is the God itself. So, but we get introduced to when somebody has to introduce you with the help of a language, worldly language,
Right.
so that it comes to understanding what it could mean to me. What some sort of feelings are generated for that.
जी, जी.
So ultimately, we have to know him through how the language is an indicator.
हाँ जी, हाँ
So
जी.
characteristics are indicator.
जी, जी.
So through these indicators, we have to get introduced to him.
Haji, thank you, Ji. I appreciate your insight. So, basically what we are saying here is that we are being introduced to certain characteristics, which to me suggests that if you are indeed looking for Waheguru or that force, then begin to look in this direction. And that is your introduction. Start looking. It's like the North Star, pretty much. Start looking in this particular direction and start to accumulate these qualities or embody these qualities in your own person. That is what it seems to suggest to me. And your point about us speaking in symbolic language is indeed well taken. And I think that when we discuss these concepts, we have to be very careful in admitting the fact that these are symbolic representations, and no matter how hard we try, they're always going to be inadequate. So with that said, we sort of accept that limitation and we move on. Anybody want to comment on this further? Ekul Karji, do you have a perspective?
Well, I'm just grateful listening to the dialogue, because I feel like my understanding of these lines is really deepened. And Eileen, your analogy with your children was so beautiful. I so appreciate that, and everything everybody's saying. I think the only thing I might add is that getting back to this difference between Salahi and Surit, and it's that theme I think that comes up in Japji over and over again, which is there's a difference between how we speak and how we think versus this capacity for very direct perception, and that ultimately the Guru is going to keep guiding us, that you may start at a certain level, but you have an ability as a human being to go beyond thought and beyond language and really just directly perceive in this very intuitive and holistic way. And when you're doing that, then you're self-actualizing kind of at the highest level. That's the experience of Nam and the experience of all those higher states merger. All those things are possible when we develop that capacity in ourselves.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Eileen, do you want to say something on the use of symbolic representation?
No, I think that's everyone covered it really well. So
okay. All right. All right. In that case, let me come down to the lines that have been giving us a little bit of trouble.
Can I just add something, please?
Hanji.
I just want to go back to that comment which was made from Amritsar, that Mool Mantar has those attributes of God there. When I was reading it and I was writing something about it, I thought the Guru Sahib was very careful, extremely careful. He basically reflected his own humbleness and limitation. And when I read Mool Mantar, for me, Mool Mantar gives us, Guru Sahib has given a simple framework. This is the framework on these 9 pillars I'm giving you. Try to develop that Akal Purkh, the picture, whatever you want to conceptualize it, with Guru Prasad, as more and more Kirpa, Guru Prasad, as more teachings you understand, that picture will blossom, bloom over time. So my understanding, Guru Sahib was hesitant in saying that God has all these qualities, 1, 2, 3, 4. He said they're unlimited states of God, but he was very careful in giving us a framework for us to work and develop individually how we conceptualize it. And as we read Gurbani with Kirpa Guru Prasad, we'll have the picture much brighter. That's my
Hanji, Hanji, thank you, Ji. In effect, I mean, the way I understand what you're saying is not really radically different from what Gurdeep Singh Virji is suggesting. And yes, indeed, it's a framework, and indeed, it consists of characteristics, and those are the ones that we have to work on. And I think we all know that if Guru Nanak has repeatedly expressed his inability to even come close to describing. So I think, and that is a quality that we should all imbibe from our Guru as well, is to walk in humility and with the understanding that there is no way that we can begin to fathom this thing that we call Vaheguru. So with that, I want to come down to the last two lines of the passage. Simunsa Sultan Gira Seti Maltan. Kiri Tulna Homni Jetis Manona Visre. I know that it has been brought up by several of you. Dilpreet Singh Ji, do you want to take a stab at what these lines mean to you, and then we can go from there?
Hanji, I can take a stab at it.
Hanji.
See, the one meaning of this is that Samund Sah Sultan Girha Seti Maltan. It is that the Vaheguru is very big and he has lot of things, whatever we can imagine. It is a representation of Vaheguru, that he has everything. Maltan means he has all the resources what we want in. So he is so big and he has all the resources. And then Kidi Tulna Hovni Jetis Manona Visra. One meaning is saying that the people who are connected with him will not care for this money or this big people. That is one meaning. But I was also struggling. What I am thinking, okay, this is just my perception, that Vaheguru is very big in the previous line where we say that once we start exploring him and we get connected to him and we get immersed into him. But I am trying to connect it with the same thought that we always need to be connected and we need to operate in that mode, that if we disconnect and start operating sometimes on and off, then it is of no use. That's how I was thinking.
So here in Simunsa Sultan, who's the Sultan here? Is this referring to Vaheguru, or is this referring to a worldly king?
In this one, it goes both ways. I think I am not clear, but where I am leaning towards this is that we cannot be in on and off mode, that one times we behave in on mode and one times we behave in off mode, that we have to be connected all the time. And Samund Shah Sultan is, I think it is representing Vaheguru.
Actually, thank you. Does somebody else want to take a shot at these lines? I'm particularly interested in expounding on Samunsa Sultan. Who is the Sultan here? Is it Vaheguru, or is it referring to worldly king? Gira Seti Maltan, of course, follows that. Anji, Gurjeet Singh Ji, Australia, we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you want to take a stab at these two lines?
Anji, the Gurbani always basically is the ultimate truth. Vaheguru hai.
Anji, can you speak up a little bit?
Okay. Sultan Shah has been referred to as Vaheguru, the ultimate conscious, the biggest conscious. And how much material means not material in this world, how much wisdom he has. We have no estimate. He has got given an example like Samund is also first of all Vaheguru, and then second he says what sort of virtues Vaheguru has. He has got immense treasure of wisdom. How much? As there are mountains in the ocean. We're trying to tell him it's limitless. But how to approach him is the word man has again come in. The first step is that in your wisdom, you must, in your mind, you must have this salahi. First step is very important before you reach that stage. So, salahi salah iti sutna paiya, you must lose your sulh. There are hymns in Gurbani which indicates on that. Mere hirday shuddh buddh bisar gayi, man asa chint visarya. This is the situation which we have to attain before we can have a contact with Samund Shah Sultan. So Shah is Chaitan, it is the ultimate, I normally call it macro God. So if you want to keep a contact with macro God, your first step is Manona Visara. That's the first step, although it's written like that. So a being has to start like that.
Tul here means comparison. A comparison is being made. Tulna karni. So who's being compared to a kidi here? To an ant?
A Gurmukh. But the condition is Jetis Manona Visara. A Gurmukh is like that kidi. It's a part of the ocean. It's like a drop of the ocean.
ठीक है जी. Let me give others a chance here. Does somebody else want to take another stab at this? Because this is getting quite interesting because I'm hearing two different versions.
Well, I spent a little time, Ravinder Singh ji.
Hanji, please.
I just want to share.
Hanji, please do. Please do.
The way I was thinking that Guru Nanak Sahib has brought to the worldly level here, the way I was reading it, a person with all the material successes, economic, political, authority, and sport is nothing compared to an ordinary person who is spiritually enlightened. That is, if a person does not have spiritual attributes of love, compassion, truth, honesty, then the accumulation of all material growth and success cannot provide sustained happiness, solitude, internal peace, and harmony. So I was reading about that. These people are more prone to mental and physical disturbances and ailments than a person who is spiritually enlightened. Because of compassion, truth, and selfless service, he or she is mentally and physically more healthy and relatively more happy.
Because they have incorporated the salah.
Exactly, and that's related to the previous
That's the connection. Hanji, they appreciate it. We are about 10 minutes away. I want to give you folks another chance to elaborate. So we've heard two versions.
Hanji,
Gurdeep Singh Virji, Hanji.
So I also have this view that Samund Shah Sultan, here the tool or comparison is done with the worldly kings, that such kings or such who own even the oceans, who are so I think these four or two lines, actually these are two lines, is one line itself. Samund Shah Sultan Girha Seti Mal Tan Kidi Tul Na Hovni. If you read it like this, all these things, they are not equal to even an ant, such an ant which has forgotten which is not doing this self-salah.
Hanji, so just for the record, I mean, I'm moderating this. I try to keep my views to myself. But I am personally, at least in my current state, don't hold me to this tomorrow, but I am completely at one with what Ranaveji has described. I think the comparison here is between those who are endowed, as he said, politically, economically, versus the ordinary person who doesn't have these material and economic power, but is spiritually enlightened, which simply means one who has incorporated these salahi in his life. That's at least my position. I just wanted to put it out there. Anybody else have a thought on this?
And this is Ekar, if I might add a thought.
Please, Ekakarji.
I'm really grateful to hear this debate because this was my fight in myself when I was working on translating. And what my process was is that the way the poetry reads is that the line before says, Nadia Ateva Pave Samund Najaniya. So Samund is already used in the Pauri to describe the place where everybody's merging. And that's why my own choice was to look at the line and say, Samund, the third line begins with Samund. And to me, that may be Guru Nanak going deeper into what that ocean is that we're all merging into. And so, I'm kind of more in the camp of that the ocean, that this ocean that we're all merging into is that great consciousness of Waheguru, of the Creator, of this great noble ruler, and within the ocean, all of those treasures are contained. That we're all flowing to that place where the spiritual wealth is there. And that this last line then, Kiri tu nahovani jaitisama navisare, is a compassionate line kind of going back to the beginning, because at the beginning Guru Nanak says, look, you can keep praising, but you're not going to get, but praise itself, it's a process to awaken your sudat, the intuition. But hey, even the tiniest being, as long as you're not forgetting God, you're going to be in that process anyway. So don't worry. It's kind of like Simran. It's hinting towards Simran. As long as you're just remembering, you're going to be in the process of flowing into that ocean where everything is contained. So that was my reading of it. But I'm grateful to hear that there's differences of opinion, and it just, I can understand it both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I can't understand it in terms of regarding Samund Sa Sultan as God, because I think the way this is written is quite, at least to my mind, and then again, we're all looking at it from our own sort of lenses, because it seems to me that where it says Nadiyan Ate Wah, then there is a pause, and then it says Pave Samund. Samund here is referring to a ocean, whereas Samund is referring to ocean upon ocean. Samund Sa Sultan, kings who have the power of, that encompasses not just one ocean, as in the second line, but many oceans. And Gira Seti Maltan is complementary to that they also have treasures that really amount to being as high as a mountain. And I like to connect the last line to the first, which is to incorporate within your person these qualities, right? Salahi. And then if you have those, as Ranaveerji I think quite beautifully explained, you just can't compare. There is no compare to being spiritually enlightened. But that's just me. We have 5 more minutes. We have not reached out to our dear friend Harvinder Singh here. Harvinder, I'm sorry, I always miss you.
Amazing. I was enjoying. So I think before this discussion, so I always assume that there is a kind of a comparison between Manmukh and Gurmukh. So like if you think as the Manmukh, who even have a lot of money, Samund Sa Sultan, Gera Seti Maltan, he got all the worldly things, he or she will not be any equal to a person who keep remembering the Vaheguru. So basically third line kind of referring to someone with lot of money and power, but then they're negating it that they will be nothing as compared to the Gurmukh. And then who is a Gurmukh? Who is kind of the first 2 lines, who keep remembering the Vaheguru and ultimately got merged with the Vaheguru. Yeah. Now, after listening to this discussion, now I'm not sure, because now the third line, when Gurjeet Singh ji and Ekmkar ji saying that Samu Sa Sultan may be referring to Vaheguru. So now I'm thinking more.
Very good. You're confused. Excellent. That was the idea. But you know, there are many passages in Gurbani, and we all know that where a Gurbuk who is poor or is in tatters is considered to be superior to a king. And even in Guru Nanak's own life, I mean, we have Sakhis. And so I think that's how I'm thinking. Anyhow.
Malpago and Lalo.
Yes, Lalo. I mean, that's what was going through my mind. But in any case, in the last 3 or 4 minutes that we have left, anyone wants to make a last round of comments?
I just have one question for anybody can help me with that, please. Yesterday I was reading something in the 2 lines word Amrit came. One was with Onkar, one was with Sihari, one was without that. Now in these 2 lines here, Sumund and Sumund, they're spelled with Sihari and without Sihari. Is there any substantive meaning, a difference in the meaning here? If you look at that, please, anybody can help me? One is with Sihari, Sumund, the second is without Sihari.
So as far as I know, and I could be mistaken, the one with the Sihari is singular. So Nadiyan te wa o samundar vich pendiyan ne. The other one is not. Samund means samundran de samundar.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else want to last comments, last round?
Samund, sorry, Samund, if you want to understand, Pavan Samund, because it has got a verb before it. Pendiyan Samundar de which they are basically merging into the ocean. So that's why there's a Sihari. It gives the meaning of Punjab, but it's not singularized or anything. It is a kark.
Anybody else want to? Okay.
Well, I can't help with the Sahari question, but I have another question.
Okay, we have just a couple of minutes.
Maybe on the blog.
If you want to raise your question and we go to the blog with it.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, the last 2 lines for me, I think I would have a lot more understanding if I could get the word definitions a little bit better. Okay. So if anybody had some time to, I think I asked Rawal Singh ji on the blog, but I haven't heard a response yet. If even I'm finding even now like a couple more words, I'm wondering about how people are translating them.
So why don't I suggest this then? Why don't we all retreat to the blog and try and carry this discussion forward? I think there are some unanswered questions remaining, some pertaining to etymology, some to to meanings. Why don't we all sort of commit to spending a little bit of our times on the blog with this? Does that sound fair?
That'd be great.
I take that to be a yes. Okay, with that, thank you very much indeed for a wonderful discussion. I had no idea coming into this that these 4 lines would lead into such an interesting discussion, seriously. And that speaks to the power of the Sangat. So thank you very, very much indeed. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.